All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. You are listening to the Money Down Pod. That is my guy, Sean White. Give him a follow on Twitter at DumpsterFireFan. Myself at Kayvon_sports. Thank you so much for tuning in on this newest episode of the Money Down Pod, where we are talking all things football. Usually we do college one, the NFL the other, but we're going to just bring them both in on one pod here because there's so much going on. We've missed some time, but now the football season is right around the corner. So we're bringing back the videos every single week. So we're here to stay. And we got to start off, Sean, with just astronomical news in the college football world. Once again, the college football world is completely just shaken up. You thought that it was just earthquake measure levels when Texas and Oklahoma went. And then next thing you know, another earthquake came, and it's pretty relative for saying that since it's two teams in California going to the Midwest, and that's USC and UCLA. Obviously, everybody has heard this news by now. Sean, let's just start with the most simple question out there. Journalism 101. What was your first thoughts when you saw this break?
Yeah, I actually think it's a good move for USC and UCLA. It kind of sucks for the college football landscape of it. If you really want to stick with the whole conference thing, I think we're probably moving to three super conferences, two super conferences, whatever you want to say. It's going to be just big time conference realignment going. This is like a domino that just keeps falling after the Texas Oklahoma news. But I think it's good moves for the school. They kind of get to a better money situation. And obviously, that's what this is all about. It's all about the money in college football at this point, with the players, with the schools, with everything. And the Big Ten is two big fishes. I can't fault the Big Ten at all for going after two of the big time schools. UCLA, I know, is going to get looked down upon, but hey, you look at them in basketball, they're big time. And honestly, they're kind of a sleeping giant in football if you can get the money right and really get people in there that care about it. And that's the big thing about moving to the Big Ten. You start to care about it more and more. USC going there, obviously, that's big time. USC is one of the biggest brands there is in football. They've been down for a while, but now with Lincoln, you can see the brand turning around. You definitely can see why they would want to make that move. You can see why the Big Ten would want them. And I think the next move for them would probably be going after Notre Dame, which I think would be huge. But for the two in California, that gets them on the West Coast. That gets the Big Ten some West Coast late night games. Me and Kayvon are big time Pac-12 after dark fans. We love Pac-12 after dark. I love staying up for those late night games on a Saturday on the East Coast. So now we're going to get some of those crazy matchups. You're going to get some Wisconsins out there, some Penn States. It's going to be a fun time. It's going to be real fun to see those games. But again, sucks for some of that Oregon USC rivalry, some of that West Coast really strength there. The Pac-12 as a conference is pretty much done as we knew it, and it's been a long time that they stood there, but we're not going to see that anymore now with the two biggest brands out of it.
Yeah, there's so many different tentacles that we're going to have to hit on this story. The first one is just this. I'm not trying to sound like the old man on the lawn here. This sucks for college football. It sucks. Of course, it's a great move for USC and UCLA. It's a phenomenal move. Like, if you're USC and UCLA, there's no way in hell you're not accepting that offer, okay? There was reports out there, like real reports out there, that UCLA was so in the red financially that they were going to have to cut off half of their Olympic sports. Like, UCLA needed this move to stay alive in their sports. So, like, they were obviously going to make this move. And this all comes back, if we want to play the blame game, there's a lot of people you can blame, but this all comes back on the Pac-12, their past commissioner, Larry Scott, and the decisions he made. He wanted to create a Pac-12 network. ESPN was willing to offer their resources just like they did for the ACC network, and Pac-12 said no. They want to do it on their own. So they went that way. It's been an absolute disaster, and this is what happens. But the reason why it sucks for college football is the Pac-12 is over. It's over. Maybe they combine with the Big 12 and they create something like that. You lose USC and UCLA. I don't care if they stay a conference or not. The Pac-12 is over. And that absolutely sucks for college football, because if anybody thinks that going to a two-conference sport is good because the NFL does it, then you're delusional. The NFL is great because it's the NFL. The college football is great because it's college football. They are two completely different entities. Complete. The only thing they have similar is football. And that is a very big similarity because everybody loves football, but it's completely different at the same time. The NFL is literally based off of any given Sunday. It's based off of LA Chargers playing the Houston Texans on a Sunday, and millions of people in the world will watch it because it's the NFL. There is not as much of appeal if UCLA is playing Rutgers on a Saturday. It's just not how it works. It takes away tradition. It takes away everything in the landscape of college football, and it's not a positive thing. And if anybody wants to come at me and say, yeah, but Kayvon, think about how much money these schools are getting. Are you getting a piece of that money? Is anybody you know getting a piece of that money? So yes, they're getting great money, but we're not getting that money. We're talking from a fan perspective here. From a fan perspective here, it's awful. And it's going to be even more awful if the ACC collapses and then the Big 12 collapses, which they very well might, and we have a two-thing race. I don't understand why, when there's so much money in college sports, we couldn't find a way to keep at least 4 conferences. At least a Power 4. And maybe that's what we'll end up doing. It doesn't look like that, but this is the thing. And Sean, to your point, where me and you absolutely love. I mean, sometimes I live for those late night Pac-12 games more than I do the regular games during the day. Like, that's how much I love those late night games. Sean, we're not getting those good games. Maybe we'll get Oregon, Washington. If we think that they're going to put Ohio State and USC at a 10:30 p.m. game, there's no way in hell. There's no way in hell they're putting the big schools with the USCs of the world out there at 10:30 at night. Now, maybe we'll get Rutgers, UCLA at 10:30. Maybe we'll get occasionally a Penn State, UCLA at 10:30. We're not getting the big games at 10:30. So we're losing the 10:30, the thing that we love out here on the East Coast. That's just not going to happen. Maybe we still get the Pac-12 games if that stays what it is, but who knows where that's going to air. Like the Pac-12, no networks want them. It's amazing for the Big Ten. The reason I don't want to go off because there's so many tentacles, because it's amazing for the Big Ten. The Big Ten had to do this to keep in line with the SEC. Since the SEC made that move to get Texas and Oklahoma, we always knew the Big Ten was going to fight back. And technically what this is it's just 2 networks, the ESPN versus Fox, going at each other. And they're building 2 super conferences here. Great for those conferences, but it sucks for the fan bases of the people that aren't in that conference. And I could even argue that a lot of the fans that are in the conference don't want this. USC and UCLA fans don't want this. This isn't what they grew up watching. They don't want this type of stuff. They like it because their school's getting money and their school's going to be better for it. But it's, again, I don't want to sound like the old man on the lawn, but if anybody actually thinks that college football going to an NFL model is good for the sport, you just don't understand college football. You just don't.
No, I agree. I don't think it should go to the NFL model. I think it should be 4 conferences. I really do. I think the Big 12 and Pac-12 should merge at this point.
I don't think we're going towards that route, though, man.
I don't think we are either. But I think that's what should happen. That's what I would prefer to happen. I don't think it's going to happen either. I do think at some point a lot of these ACC schools are just going to join the SEC. That's just what's going to happen. And then there's going to be a lot of people out there left in the dust. But to kind of piggyback onto what you were saying before we go off into several other directions, just let me come back at one thing. You're saying that you don't think we're going to get really good primetime games after dark. I think this is a bunch of networks fighting each other. And what we got to remember here is ESPN has the SEC now. Yeah. So I definitely still can see USC against a Wisconsin or USC against a Penn State being a 10:30 game where Fox throws Ohio State on that 12 o'clock window and ESPN has a big-time SEC game at 7 that they don't want to throw USC up against, so Fox can feel like they can get the ratings there. I feel like we might see a little bit of that manipulation going on Fox's end so they can get 2 big games out of it and not get blown out by the SEC game at night that ESPN puts on.
That makes sense. I hope you're right.
That happened a few times, but that's like the only real good thing that you could really get out of a fan is being able to see a USC against a Wisconsin tonight, or even a UCLA against a Wisconsin. And like you were saying, is like UCLA fans, I don't think they care either way. They're not huge football fanatics anyway. I don't think they're happy about moving the conference at all either, because most of them are basketball fans, man. And I don't think it's great for them to go basketball playing in the Big Ten. They dominate the Pac-12 usually. It's like, so I don't know how much they really love the idea of all the cross-country travel and playing basketball in the Big Ten like that. The thing with SC is they're going to be the big brand out of that group, so they're going to be fine. But these Pac-12 fans, man, I feel bad for them. I feel bad for Oregon. The one thing Oregon has on their side is Phil Knight. Phil Knight's going to get them in a conference. He's going to do it. So that's one thing that I do recommend them doing quickly. I don't know why they want to attach themselves to Washington, though. I don't think Washington has the brand power anymore.
I don't get that either.
Left out, to be honest.
I agree. I don't understand that either. I don't understand what Oregon. I don't understand why the Big Ten wouldn't want Oregon. Now I don't know if they do. It's just odd. It seems weird. If I would Oregon has phenomenal resources. They're a great school up there, man. I would want Oregon in a second, but that's what it's going to come down to. It's going to come down to picking and choosing which schools you want. There's going to be a numerous amount of schools that are left out. And then the part that you said in the beginning here that you hit on real quickly was Notre Dame. That's obviously the next domino to fall. And Notre Dame really shouldn't be in any rush because let people chase after you, man. Like I think when they do make a decision, it will be the Big Ten. It just makes so much sense. Their school is in the Midwest. They kind of have that motto, even though we don't bring academics in this anymore because it's so far away from academics. The Big Ten still does pride themselves on having academically sound schools like that. And the Notre Dame also prides themselves on that as well. Now they do have a relationship with the ACC. I just don't think that Notre Dame is going to say, you know what, we want to save you, ACC. We're going to go there. They're not going to take that risk because if they go there and then say 3-4 years later, Clemson leaves or Florida State leaves, the conference starts to fall apart. So I don't know if Notre Dame will leave. I think they do eventually. And if they do, it's going to be to the Big Ten. And once that happens, everything is going to just free for all from there. I think once Notre Dame falls, I think from there, the ACC is going to realize, because right now, the ACC to me, I think is still a very strong conference. But for some reason, there's a perception out there that the ACC is hanging on by a thread. And if they don't get Notre Dame, they're in trouble. And it's starting to feel like to me, if Notre Dame announces they're going to the Big Ten, that maybe 2 months later, or maybe even 2 weeks later, we start to hear Clemson went to the SEC, USC's going to the Big Ten, or UNC's going to the Big Ten, NC State's going to the SEC, and you're just going to start seeing schools go left and right from there. I honestly feel like that's going to happen if and when Notre Dame makes that move.
So here's the question I have for you. Do you think the SEC is going to go over 20 teams? Because I think they're going to stick at 20 no matter what.
You think no matter what, they're going to stick at
20? I think they're taking – if they take anyone, they're taking 4 from the ACC, and that's it.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Which 4 do you think they take?
I think they would definitely take Clemson, Florida State, and I actually think NC State would get thrown in there too. I think Miami's a Big Ten team. I don't think they go for Miami. I think Miami would go to the Big Ten. I get it, but the geographic doesn't matter anymore. Miami's a private school. Their school fits the Big Ten motto. I think Clemson and Florida State are a lock. I think NC State would squeeze in there. And I think maybe they would try UNC. But see, I think UNC would go Big Ten. I don't think UNC goes to the SEC. I think UNC goes Big Ten. So, geez, man, I don't know the fourth school that they would. What other schools appealing to them?
See, that's where we differ. I think UNC would go to the SEC.
I don't see it.
Especially if NC State goes. If NC State goes, I think they go with them. Here's the thing that's really bothering me about the whole thing is, well, the biggest rivalry in college basketball is UNC Duke.
No one cares.
Split.
It's gone. It's gone. Yeah. Nobody cares.
Because once that's the thing that like Duke fans would probably fail to realize, that just follow the basketball team but don't follow the rest of the sports of the school. No one cares about Duke outside of their basketball team.
Nobody.
And people do want UNC for the brand recognition, and they're backed by money. Like period. Like they're backed by money. So
but
they have.
Sad.
It was just sad. It would be heartbreaking because we all grew up on that as like the biggest rivalry. So that's kind of tearing stuff apart, man. And I really don't know what's going to happen with that. I really don't. So so you think that Miami and UNC would then go to the Big Ten?
I think Miami and UNC would go to the Big Ten, and I think Clemson, Florida State, and NC State would go to the SEC. I don't think it matters anymore. What?
You think Duke would go to the Big Ten then? Do you think the Big Ten is like, fine, we'll have a super basketball conference as well?
I don't think Duke goes anywhere. I think Duke is the one that gets left out.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Duke gets left out completely, and Duke fans are going to hate that. But this is what you guys have to understand. This isn't a basketball conversation. Yeah. This is all on football. And it's crazy to me because basketball should be in the conversation because they have a phenomenal tournament that makes a lot of money. But it's so much more money in football. Basketball is clearly does not care. I think Kansas goes to the Big Ten. I think UNC goes to the Big Ten. I think that they say that's our basketball rivalry right there. UNC and Duke will still play one out-of-conference game a year in basketball, and everything's destroyed. But I think that's, to me, now listen, there's a lot of UNC fans and people that think UNC would go to the SEC. I wouldn't be shocked by that either. I just think that the Big Ten has schools that they look at and they like, and Miami and UNC fit that billing like no other. And I think that they would rather have it that way. And I think the SEC would say, fine, we'll take Clemson. As long as we get Clemson, you can have anybody else that you want. And they would take the Florida States and the NC States of the world because they got Clemson, and that's all that matters to them.
I thought the original rumor was kind of strange that it was Clemson, Florida State, UNC, Virginia. I thought Virginia being thrown in that was very strange.
Yeah, but I think the reason that is the SEC wants to have every state. They don't have North Carolina and they don't have Virginia yet. So they would have
Virginia Tech if I was them, to be honest.
I would too, but I don't get it. It's odd, man. It sucks.
Yeah, it's strange because these schools are going to posture behind the scenes. You know that's what's going to happen anyway. Really, the ACC is definitely waiting on Notre Dame. That's all they're doing right now anyway. These teams are kind of holding together like, all right, we're going to be straight, wait on Notre Dame. But in reality, the ACC, all the power belongs to Clemson. If Clemson leaves, it's over. Like that, it's the same way with the Pac-12. Once USC left, it wasn't even about UCLA. Once USC left, it was all over. Now, if Clemson was to leave the ACC, it would be all over. Same thing with the Big 12. Texas and Oklahoma left. It was over. That's how it is.
And, bro, I mean, first of all, Clemson already feels like an SEC school. Like, they already feel like an SEC team. So it would fit perfect for them. But you're right, man. Notre Dame is the thing that's hanging in the balance there. If Notre Dame, for some reason, said, you know what, man, I really like the ACC. They did us a favor and brought us in during COVID. We're going to give them a favor and we're going to go there. If that happens, then the two conference model's done. Because the ACC is surviving, and they are surviving well. But if it doesn't happen, I just don't know how those teams stick on after that. Because it's going to be a move all about fear from here on out, Sean. It's all about fear. None of these schools want to have the fear of what's going through Cal's mind right now, of what's going through Arizona and Arizona State's mind right now, of what's going through TCU and Oklahoma State's mind right now. All of them are thinking right now, are we literally going to get left out of a conference? Like, are we done? We're done with playing in conferences, these Big Four conferences. None of those schools want to have that. So it's the fear of getting left behind where they're going to say, shit, we're moving. And that's what's going to happen.
How would you feel about the idea? So the two-team super conference has all the downsides and everything, but the upside everyone says is, you do the two-team super conference. You expand the playoff to 16. That's what a bunch of people say. You give 5 bids to one, 6 bids to the other, however you want to do it. And then the people that are out there are kind of in their own little tiny conferences. It gets 1 or 2 and goes in. How do you feel about a 16-team playoff like that? Kind of the NFL model that way. How do you feel about that being a playoff structure that you could get excited about, or do you hate that idea completely as well?
Yeah, I actually haven't heard that. I don't like it. I don't like it at all, man. And the reason why I don't like it is it has the NFL written all over it. I don't want college football to be the NFL. I don't want that. And everybody will say, well, Kayvon, you'll still have the schools and all that stuff and the stuff going on at the school. It changes everything, man. The reason why college football, one of the biggest reasons is so damn good, Sean, and we talk about this every Saturday, is because we sit here on Saturdays or on Fridays when we do our show, and we talk about how Alabama can't lose this game. If they lose this game, they've got to win out. Georgia can't lose this game. Clemson can't lose this game. If you go to a 16-team model, Clemson can lose 3 games and they'll still get in. Alabama can lose 3 games and they'll still get in. It just destroys the regular season, and to me, it just doesn't make it fun. And then it's like, okay, the teams that you're bringing in from the outside, who the hell are they playing? What? I mean, who are they just playing each other? And then whoever goes on to, is it kind of like the Cincinnatis of the world now? That's what they're going to become.
That's that model. That's
Dude,
the model that's been around.
I just can't wrap my head. Maybe I'm like an old guy now, but I just can't wrap my head around the thought of 2 conferences in college football. I just can't wrap my head around that.
Yeah, and an unintended consequence that would really bother me. This would be one of the bigger things that would bother me. And I'm going to sound funny doing this because it's kind of a weird thing to like. One of my favorite things about college football is at 12 o'clock, when the Big Ten matchup comes on, I get to see people just smash mouth each other. Like the Big Ten just plays that hard-nosed football. And then at 3:30, or the night game for the SEC, I get to see all these athletes on defense go against all these athletes on offense. And it's just such a fun matchup. And then if you know it's not enough offense for you that day, you turn on the Big 12 and you're watching like a 60 to 50-something game. And you're just slinging it everywhere. No defense being played, flag football out there. And then you go to Pac-12 after dark, and it's just crazy, man. People winning that shouldn't be winning. I mean, random stuff happening. I mean, just the way the Pac-12 after dark did it, the styles that make these conferences. And then when you finally get into the postseason, the one good thing about bowl season, and bowl season was always up and down. It was always something to bet on. The games were never that great. But what was good about the games that really was fun was seeing these contrasting styles play each other and having the bragging rights of your conference. And an unintended consequence is once you start joining a conference like this, you're all going to play similar. Like
so true.
Most NFL games you watch, you do play similar. They run the same concepts. They try to do the same thing. It's just you have better players, and it's just executed at such a high level that's almost poetry in motion, and you bet on it. And the NFL is just in its own stratosphere.
Yes.
What's fun about college is, man, you just go in and it's like a completely different fight, man. When you see Ohio State go against Wisconsin's just running the ball like 35 times, and Ohio State's trying to throw it on them. And it's just a fun matchup. And then it's just completely different to the Big 12. And all that's going to get lost because you're just not going to see that anymore. It's not going to happen.
It might have been the best point that I've heard anybody talk about when we're talking about this. I haven't heard that before, and it was phenomenal. It was so well said, dude, because it's so true, man. We sit up here and we know what we're getting at the Big Ten. We know what we're getting in the ACC. We know what we're getting in the SEC. And then all season long, we sit here and we think, man, if these teams make it from the ACC and this team makes it from the SEC, imagine how those two are going to be. And we get to fantasize about that all season until it happens. Well, if we go to this model, all of that fascination, all of that stuff is just going to link into one big thing, that the styles are going to be all the same. It's not going to have that theory of the mind of just you're not sure of what you're looking forward to. What you said is perfect, man. It's just, again, I love college football. You love college football. We're going to watch it and talk about it no matter what. I just want people to understand that just because a lot of money is being thrown at something does not mean it's a great thing. Yes, it means clearly there's something that's being liked because there's a lot of money, there's a lot of revenue out there. It does not mean it's a great thing, though. Sometimes going to a model that succeeds in one thing doesn't always mean it's going to succeed for you because it's just completely different. And college football is running this very fine line right now where they need to decide what the hell they want to do before it gets too late and before they do become the NFL. And right now it's hanging on by a thread. I just can't understand. I'll just leave it out there for you guys to answer. At @Kayvon_sports on Twitter, at Dumpster Fire Fan. If you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment right there on the YouTube page. Money Down Pod on Twitter. Someone just explained to me, why can't we have 4 power conferences? Look, if you want to tell me 5 is too much, that's fine. The Pac-12 and Big 12, even though I hate it, they can combine. Why can't we have, there's so much money out there. There's so many networks out there that are willing to pay the money. It's not just ESPN and Fox. There's other networks out there that will pay. Why can't we have 4 conferences? What the hell is so wrong with that? Why do we have to become this 2-conference NFL model when it shouldn't be that? That is what I put out there.
Yeah, I agree. And I actually, the funny thing is, you say you said you hated the Big 12 and Pac-12 merge. I actually don't mind it. I
wouldn't mind it either.
I actually think it'd be kind of intriguing because you have Oregon at the top, and then you have Oklahoma State, TCU, Baylor that are all going to be like solid top 4. But what it also does is it taps into that like secondary recruiting market in Texas that the Arizona schools can get into, and that other ones can. Really, let's be honest, we don't know. I know I've heard people talk about it before. Do we even know Cal and Stanford are going to like be playing football still? Like,
no,
all this, like they just don't care about it, man. Yeah. Like there's some schools that just don't care about the football part of it. Which, if that's the case, they can just quit their team and the fans can be upset about it. But that's just how it is. But I think that would actually be a fun conference. Like it would still be Pac-12 after dark, dude. That would just be the group of crazy teams that anything happen.
Baylor versus Oregon.
Yeah.
It'd be awesome. It would be Oklahoma State versus Washington State. I sign me up for that stuff all the time. Washington versus, like, there's so many games that I would love out of that, man. And you still get a lot. I'm with you. If I'm the Pac-12 and Big 12 commissioner, I am on the phone talking to each other and talking to ESPN or Fox and coming up with a solution where you can make, because to me, man, maybe we're just delusional, but to me, those teams, those fan bases, those schools, they're still intriguing to me. And that might just be us being naive and loving football so much. They're intriguing to me. They bring enough to the table for me. You're so right about the recruiting, and I hope that's what ends up happening.
We'll see. And 2 things to hit on right quick. And you had mentioned it a little bit before, but this is a failure on number 1, not having a commissioner to really regulate this, and number 2, the Pac-12 having a commissioner that was just awful at his job, and Larry Scott. That was just a terrible job. Me and you talked about this, and I just want to reiterate this point. Me and you talked about this. You know how stupid it is that some nights I wouldn't be able to watch Pac-12 games because I literally can't get the Pac-12 network. Like, I can't get it. Like, as a TV provider, I can't purchase it. Like, why? And it's like their best or second best matchup is on it exclusively, and it's a completely different paid subscribership. Made no sense. It ran a whole conference into the ground over it. It's an excellent lesson on how to mismanage assets and mismanage running a college conference. Just terrible job. I had to reiterate that because that's what pisses me off the most in the whole thing, and just terribly mismanaged.
No, you're right, man. And that's why, again, there's a lot of people to blame, but the one that really, Larry Scott, I'm sorry, just how do you come up with a network of your own conference and you're not willing to have the worldwide leader of sports back it up? Or you're going to make it a network where people like me and Sean can't buy it. We have to stream it if we want to watch it on one of those websites where you have to hit 90 exits every time something pops up just to be able to watch it. Like, to me, it's mind blowing. It's the opposite of how you want to go about proving a product. You don't put it somewhere where it's impossible to find. And that's what the Pac-12 did. And now they're paying the consequences. And their 2 biggest schools, well, at least their biggest school in USC is gone. And I hate it for Pac-12 fans, but that's where we are now. And we'll see what happens. I want to hear your thoughts on this whole conference realignment. Do you love it? If so, why? Do you feel like we are looking at this in the wrong way? If so, tell us why here on the YouTube page, or comment if you're listening on podcast version, and we will always get back to you right after we do our next show. All right, let's move on from the NFL, from college football to the NFL, where some news that has been percolating forever finally landed, and that's Baker Mayfield going to the Carolina Panthers. Carolina, where me and you are both, been living our entire lives pretty much, and that's a lot of Panthers fans now have a new quarterback. Maybe he people don't think he wins out the starting job. He will, but that's the guy there now. So, Sean, again, journalism 101, thoughts right when you heard this happen?
I mean, I don't know. Really, I don't know what they're doing, to be honest. But I mean, he's a better quarterback than Darnold is. I just don't understand drafting Corral and then doing this. I don't know. It's a lot of convoluted stuff going on. I think Matt Rule probably fears for his job a little bit. They're kind of just throwing anything that sticks, just taking as many swings as you can. Maybe we'll hit on one quarterback and it'll be all good, but that's kind of where I'm at with Matt Rule and this whole decision making process. Baker didn't land in that good of a spot, if I'm being honest with you. They have CMC, they have DJ Moore, but CMC gets hurt every year, man. McCaffrey's been hurt, and you gotta hope he's healthy for him to really explode like that. The offensive line's questionable. I know they spend a little bit of draft capital on it and everything, but questionable offensive line. I just really don't know what they're doing. I don't know what their identity is really. And maybe they're just going to have Baker Mayfield come out there and be whip accurate and he'll go back to his old college ways. But he's going to a way worse situation than he was in Cleveland, where they had a top 5 roster in the league, in my opinion. Just a real weird trade to me. It screams of desperation that they need a quarterback. And I don't see it really working out for anybody in this scenario, really. I don't.
Yeah, so the situation's obviously way worse than Cleveland. The coaching staff is not as good as it is in Cleveland. We all get that. The issue here is I think they see it as a no risk. You know, they bring this guy in. Baker took a pay cut. They didn't have to pay as much money. But the part where you're right is they have just mishandled the Carolina Panthers have just mishandled the quarterback position so bad, man. Not only did they trade for Sam Darnold, they gave up a haul for him a couple years ago. I mean, they gave up so much to get him. After 1 year, he looked terrible. They decide to draft someone, Matt Corral. Then before even the offseason finishes, they bring in Baker Mayfield. And to me, it just all goes back to they have mismanaged the quarterback position so bad. They could have drafted Justin Fields last year. They could have drafted, literally, they passed on Justin Fields. They could have drafted Justin Fields, and that could have been their guy. Now, I have been someone that hasn't particularly liked Mayfield. Like, I never really liked him that much coming into the NFL. I thought he was going to always just be average, which is what he kind of has. But I now kind of find myself supporting him because I think it's gone too far with the hate. Like, I don't think he's a top 15 quarterback by any means. I think he's a good quarterback, not a great one. But it's gotten to this point now where teams like Seattle that are looking at him, not wanting him, it's like, what are you doing? Like, I get it. He's not great, but he's better than Geno Smith and Drew Lock. So that's where I'm sitting here saying, I get the Panthers for going after this guy just because I don't think they had anything else. But the way they went about it is right. Like, the way you're right about that. Like, everything else they've done makes no sense. And it just looks like they're desperate. But to me, I think they see it as a no risk. Give it a try. And I also think, this is something I haven't really heard, I think this is the owner, David Tepper, kind of telling Matt Rule, I'm giving you a quarterback that has won a playoff game. You better do something or you're fired. Like, I think he is giving Matt Rule something that's saying, listen, now you can't say I didn't give you anything. I'm giving you a quarterback. See what you can do with it this year. And it probably will end up with him getting fired anyways. But I think that it's a no risk in their mind.
Yeah, the risk is not very high, so I'm glad you did bring that up because I was probably going to get flamed immediately by Panther fans, being like, "Oh, it was only a 5th-round pick," and it's like, "Well, no, dude, you gave up like 3 other picks for Sam Darnold and drafted
Sam Darnold trade was terrible."
So I mean, you're using like 5 picks on 3 quarterbacks at this point. It's like, come on, man. The thing about it is, I do agree with you. I think Tepper has been very impatient for someone that just bought a team. It's kind of weird, man. Like chill out with this. And then Rule is making moves like his job depends on it.
Yes.
I thought, you know what's even more strange? I always thought it was strange last year when they went on like that first. They started off like 3-0. Remember? Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, they just started trading away draft picks for they traded for C.J. Henderson. Then they traded for Gilmore. Like, they started making all these win now moves. Like, they were like serious contenders. Yeah. Then it all fell apart. I'm like, what are we doing out here? So it's just been real questionable there in general. I know I have some Panther fans that are kind of like, what the hell are we doing too? So I kind of understand like where that's coming from. Just a strange bit of moves for them. What do you really think the team's going to look like this year, honestly? You think Mayfield starts from day one and really has the job pretty locked in unless he just just looks horrible or something.
Yeah, I think that there's no doubt that Mayfield starts. I do think, oddly enough, and this is just total, like, just speculative. I think Sam Darnold's one of those guys that surprisingly looks good during practice. And then you know how there's those guys that look awesome at practice and then they get out during the game and they're not as good. So I could see Sam Darnold having a really good offseason, but I just don't. I just think that Baker Mayfield is too talented. I think that he is going to, even though people are saying the locker room doesn't like him, I think that Baker's going to come in with a chip on his shoulder and he's going to show it. I think that he's going to have too much bravado. He's going to show too much to not start. I'd be shocked if he ends up not starting. I'd actually be shocked about it. The team-wise, though, I still don't think they're going to be very good. I just don't think, first of all, their offensive line is not good. Their offensive line is not good, and Baker Mayfield needs a good offensive line. I think that they'll be decent. They have a good defense. I just think there's too much weird parts there for them to be like a legit team. The one thing they have going for them is I'm not very high on the Saints, and my Falcons, unfortunately, probably aren't going to be very good either. So they do have an easier competition in terms of the division. I still just can't see a lot happening with that team.
Yeah, I think they're anywhere from that 4 to 6 wins range. That's where I'm at. I think Mayfield could play pretty well, and just the team still lose as well. We just have the team structured. I do think he starts. I think you don't make that move right now if Darnold's blowing you away in camp, like everybody's trying to report for some reason. Everyone just keeps reporting, oh, Darnold looks so good. It's like, well, if he looked so good, they wouldn't have traded for Mayfield right there.
Every year, man. Every year.
No matter what the risk is. Is he also in the best shape of his life, or at that time of the year as well?
Yep, right.
Good one. Best shape of his life. But yeah, I do think he starts from day one. And we'll get into the fantasy impacts of that next week. We are going to start doing our fantasy shows. I basically have my top 50 laid out. And I've got to kind of separate a few from PPR and here and there because I know everybody has different formats.
Yeah.
So I have my top 50 laid out. I know Kayvon's doing some work on his. We're going to start fantasy hard and heavy next week. Do you have time for like a quick 5 to 7 minute conversation, or do you want to get off real quick?
No, you're good. Go ahead.
I want to talk about this Trey Lance thing. Have you seen what's going on?
I don't know. There's a lot going on with Trey Lance. What is it now?
They have I think it's Mike Silver and like several other sources are saying that he has arm fatigue. And then all of the 49ers people are trying to like, no, that's not the case. Like they're like trying to hush that because he's having to throw mechanically different. And I wanted to make this point. It's going to be kind of controversial, and I'm going to go ahead and throw it out there. I'm out on Trey Lance. I'm out on it because I've seen too much of this. I've seen it twice before, and now I've seen it a third time. And from now on, with any of my quarterback projections from college, I'm just going to be out on it no matter what. Long loopy releases, I'm out on. Just in general, I just don't buy it at all. I saw it with Blake Bortles up close, who also had an arm fatigue issue, and it was covered up like this. I dealt with that. That's why this is kind of funny for me as a Jags fan, because I've seen the same exact reports happening before when they tried to fix his release, and his arm was fatigued. He couldn't throw in camp. And I know everybody's trying to cover it up and say, oh, no, Trey Lance isn't having this issue. It's getting out there somewhere. They're not making this up and then reporting it. So if it's happening, if it's not, it's because he's trying to fix his release, and that never held with Blake. Number 2, Sam Darnold's the same way. And it's funny because they're all number 3 picks. But Sam Darnold's the same way. Long loopy release, athlete. The thing with Trey Lance that does give me a little bit more pause to be like, oh, he's a bust. I don't think he's going to bust because of Shanahan. I think Shanahan's going to put him in a good enough situation for him to be much better than those two. But elite quarterback, everybody's trying to tell me he's Josh Allen online. He's going to do all this and that. I'm out on that. I think he's going to be a mid-level quarterback. I think he's going to be a more athletic Jimmy G at this point. Maybe a little turnover prone too. I don't buy the loopy release. I'm not going to buy that on any quarterback after this. I'm out on it.
Dude, this is like the weirdest shit, man. Every time me and you talk, you give me some new rumor about Trey Lance. Like, I've never in my life heard about a QB with so many rumors coming out on him. There's so much bullshit rumor. Let the kid be. Why are they trying to fix his release? I don't care if his release. Why does it matter? Why does it matter? Leave his release as it is. First of all, that guy is more athletic in his sleep than Sam Darnold and Blake Bortles combined. So out of his waking up, he will be 10 times better than both of those guys because he's way more athletic than them. Way more athletic than them. But this whole bullshit about his release is so leave the kid alone. Like, leave the kid alone and let him go out there and play. If he has arm fatigue, it's because those idiots are trying to fix him. Don't fix him. You picked him number 3 overall for a reason. Let him go out there and play. The kid can play because he's really athletic. He can move, dude. I think he can move second to Lamar Jackson in this league. I think he has that type of athletic ability.
You're high on that.
I think he has that type of athletic. Did you see him in those 2 games, the way that he played this year, the way he ran around? He can run around, man. He can run around better than anyone out there, other than a couple of guys like Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, stuff like that. I mean, you can't even put Sam Darnold and Blake Bortles on the same name as them when it comes to athletic ability. His athletic ability is 20 times better than both of those guys. But you're going to be right if these rumors are true. You're going to be right if they're up in there changing this guy's motion. No shit, he has arm fatigue. You're changing his throwing motion. What do you think's going to happen? You don't think he's going to have arm fatigue from changing a motion that a guy has done his entire life? No duh, his arm's going to feel sore. No duh, it's going to be fatigue. The 49ers are effing this guy up, man. If these rumors are true, the 49ers are effing this guy up. Let him play first and see how it is in a real game for a long season, and then talk about what you want to fix. This is stupid.
Hey, that's a strong-ass take by you on that right there. I like that. That was a strong-ass take. I like that.
I mean, it's true.
I'm coming with a strong take, too. Literally, this is just where I'm at. I know for a fact, and 49ers fans out there, if you want to comment, go ahead. You can comment all you want. I know they're trying to change his release. That's been reported by several people. That's not up for debate. The up for debate thing is we have conflicting reports about his arm being fatigued.
Well, that's not up for debate either. If they're fixing his release, then his arm is fatigued. That's facts. Like, it's facts. His arm is sore and fatigued. Then if you 1,000% know that they are changing his release, then it's facts that his arm is fatigued. Then you're going to be right. Dude, I don't care how good a player is. You don't change a player up like that and they come in and start dominating. It just doesn't work.
Yep. See, that's why I said I'm kind of out on this whole loopy release thing, man, because, like, I don't know. Everyone tries to change it and it never fucking works. Like,
but if they just let it be then. Like, the kid is talented enough to let it be.
I'm with you on the athleticism, too. Just let him be an athlete.
Just let him be an athlete. Just let him go and be an athlete and see what happens, man.
But then we get down a whole rabbit hole of, did Shanahan really want him at that point then?
No, I don't think he did. From all these rumors, clearly he did not want him. Clearly. Which is going to be so fascinating.
Out there. Because I've been itching to do this Trey Lance take because I kind of the arm fatigue thing was enough for me. Because, like I said, I dealt with it firsthand for 2 years. I dealt with it firsthand. And I was already a little nervous on the release. Me and you talked about it in our first few pods. Yeah. I was always big on his release being too long. But now the arm fatigue and everything, and I don't care what you say, it's weird they're keeping Jimmy G like this. It's weird. Like, let's be honest, it's kind of.
I don't think he has any value.
Yeah, but at the same time, man, like at some point you got to get rid of the dude. Like he's becoming a distraction, which is what you don't want in a backup quarterback.
Well, what are you going to do? Just get rid of him for free? I mean, I literally don't think
they're going to have to get rid of him for very little at some point. But I think they value him way higher.
They definitely value him way higher. I mean, he went to the NFC Championship game. I don't think anybody's offered more than a 5th-round pick. I think
that's what they should take to get him out of the building.
I'm not going to take what Baker just got. This is the guy that's gone to the Super Bowl. I don't blame them for that. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that.
I don't know where he goes, though. I don't know where he goes.
Yeah, I don't know where he goes either, but I'm not doing that. So, this is the thing, though, man. Like, this to me is why I'm glad you brought this up, because it's honestly kind of pissing me off now. Like, let the kid be, dude. It's really making me mad that every time we talk, there's a new thing coming out, which goes to your point. Shanahan didn't want him. All this shit doesn't come out if Shanahan really wanted this guy. And the kid is a good enough athlete, man, to win in the NFL. I'm not saying he's good enough to win Super Bowls and to be this phenomenal team, but he is a good enough athlete with that coach and this roster to be a very exciting team in the NFL. Yes, he might have some turnover prones with that release. He might get hurt with the way he runs, but he is good enough to win in the NFL and be a quarterback in the NFL. When you go in there and start effing things up like this, it's going to be a disaster. It's going to be an absolute disaster. That's crazy to me, man.
Yeah, I like that. Very strong take there. I'm glad we got to have that take right there because I see 49er fans doing the whole Josh Allen thing. I think Josh Allen's an outlier in general.
Yeah,
But man, I see it out there. I'm telling you, I dealt with the shit firsthand when you're trying to fix a mechanic like this because it's very similar. I wish I could side by side him right now. It was very similar. And if you just go let him play, he is a much better athlete than Bortles. I'm not saying he's Bortles, so don't misquote me on that. I'm saying that release is a lot like that, and it would concern me if they're trying to change the whole thing up like they are. And now he's getting arm fatigue, which I know a lot of people is going to say that's not true, but I think it is true.
And so, you know, the one thing about Josh Allen, you know what the Bills didn't do? They didn't change Josh Allen. You remember Josh Allen's first couple years, bro? He was running around and just strictly doing things on his athleticism because his arm wasn't getting it done because he was throwing pick after pick. I mean, I remember his rookie season, he had like 3 games in a row where he ran for over 100 yards. And people were like, this guy can run. Like, Trey Lance is never going to be the thrower or have the arm that Josh Allen has. But he has the athleticism. If they just let him go around and then let the throwing motion come into effect as it goes, but if they change this kid before he even gets the confidence to go out there and show he can play, they are going to destroy him. I'm glad you brought this up because that is a clear issue. That is a massive issue. And there's a big population of 49ers fans out there. So I really would love to hear what you guys have to say about this whole conversation. Clearly, there's a lot of talk on it. Comment on the YouTube page and let us know at Sean, at Dumpster Fire Fan on Twitter, at Kayvon_sports. Let us know your thoughts, all right? That was clearly a great way to end the show here. We'll talk about that much more as we go, especially next week when we get into fantasy. Sean, like you said, man, let them know we're going all in next week.
Oh, yeah.
All in. Everything from tiers to rankings to literally quarterback, running back, wide. We are going to do mock drafts.
Standard, PPR, Dynasty, we're hitting them all. Yeah, we have different rankings for them all. I got them laid out. We're going to get them going.
And there's one thing that me and Sean take very serious, and that is fantasy. So I guarantee you are going to see a lot of fun debates coming up this next couple weeks as we dive into fantasy. Thank you for the support again. Our numbers have been up like crazy. We feel bad we haven't been able to put more content out since our numbers have jumped, but we hope that you guys have been waiting around. You get back on board because now the videos will start coming. So thank you. It means a lot. We'll keep them coming. Have a good rest of your night. We'll talk to you soon.